Okay, I wanted to look quickly at images and making images responsive, and that is to fill the screen regardless of the browser size and device using, and essentially that means that they will shrink down in the correct proportions and dimensions on mobile devices and tablets. Now, on the main standard pages, not the home page, because the home page is wider. Now, on the home page, if you want a banner to fill the whole page, you need to use it, make it 1128 pixels wide. On the rest of these pages, the standard pages, the pixel maximum width is 875, and these banners, if you were to replace any of them, are 875 pixels wide by 283 pixels high to keep the same dimensions as the other banners. Now, be very careful about putting any images, changing any images, because as I think I mentioned earlier, if you happen to use a licensed image that you've taken from somewhere, Google or someone supplied it to you, you can find yourself getting a massive fine. I've had a couple of clients over the years get, including actually Steyning Health Centre in the past, get large fines for using licensed images that they've put up that they found somewhere on sort of a Google search or something. So, as most of the images here are incredibly representative of what the page is, not that this one is because I've been fiddling around with it, and this is obviously pills, not surgery, opening hours, you shouldn't need to change any of them. But if you do, for whatever reason, I mean, most of the images I think you're allowed will be things like, I don't know, a flu update banner or something, or a extended opening hours, maybe an image that comes through that you want to pop in, and probably not where the banner is but somewhere else. But let's go through it anyway. So the first thing to do, left click on that image. This is to replace one of these banners, and then that's now gone blue. This image icon, it's actually the wrong dimensions. These are 774 by 250, so it's having to stretch it a bit to fill the screen, which is fine because it's not a huge amount bigger, but that uses a class called responsive image from the CSS, the cascading style sheet that I'll touch on in a minute. But what you actually want to do when you don't actually want the pixel dimensions in there, and I'll explain why. This is only because I've been mucking around with this a moment ago and I forgot to strip them out. If you are replacing any of these images, adding one, so let's find a different image, and again, some of these aren't at the dimensions they should be, but they will scale up, but I recommend you put them in the banners at 875 by 283 pixels. So let's choose a different one. Doesn't really matter what I choose, to be honest with you, but let's go with this one. Now I select that image. What I want to do, as I say, this should be 875 by 283, but 774 by 250. It's the dimensions these were originally uploaded in. Now you want to strip those out, otherwise it keeps it at those dimensions, whatever the screen size, which will mean it would be too big for a mobile phone screen. And it does one of two things depending on the browser and device. It either makes the picture break the design and go, and you have to scroll left and right, or it squashes the picture up. It keeps the height at 250 pixels, but squashes the picture sideways to fit it into the screen. You don't need to resize the image for a smaller file size if you have done JPEG compression in an image editor beforehand, and you should save JPEGs at about 70% compression. Don't put, although you can strip out these dimensions, don't put images in and use this responsive image class I'm going to talk with you about at like 2000, 3000, 4000 pixels width, massive high resolution images, because they will actually, their weight in terms of the number of kilobytes on the page will be huge. There'll be several hundred kilobytes, and which will be more weight than the rest of the entire page, and it will slow page load time down, which is very important, particularly on 4G. Then you would click submit, but first of all you want to give it a more descriptive a more in-depth description here, and that's called alt text, alternative description, and that's for people using screen readers. It's helpful for search engine optimization anyway, but it's also very important for people with visual impairments or the blind using screen readers. So put something along the lines of image representing surgery opening as. It's actually a stethoscope, but it should have used a clock or something. So you say image of a clock representing our surgery opening as. Submit that, and then you would publish. And I'll show you why you don't leave those dimensions in there in a moment, because when I visit the web page, this image will now, if I shrink this, I'm just going to drag my browser screen to the left and show you what happens. The image fits and shrinks in proportion. It's like going to a tablet, going to a mobile phone. If, close that down, click on that image, and then on the image icon, if I had left those pixel dimensions in, again I don't need that ticked, submit, publish. So I'm previewing this in Google Chrome. This is pretty much what would happen across most devices. What it's going to do, and imagine this is a banner with some writing on, or it's got a face on or something, is it's just going to squash that image. You see, it's not keeping the proportions, it's squashing it. So it's keeping the height the same, but squashing, whereas what you want to do is the whole thing to shrink down in proportion. And that is why we do not leave those dimensions in. Now, what it's actually got on it, this image, to tell it to resize, is it's got a class already applied called responsive image in the background, or it's actually a different class on these banners, but it's one that makes it act responsively. But you need to apply that responsive image class if you add a new image. So let's say you wanted an image somewhere else within this page. We'll just use one of those banners to fill it, which are actually at the moment slightly smaller than this gap, which is 875 pixels, but it doesn't matter, it's slightly smaller because we are going to use that responsive image class. I'm going to then, I've just hit a paragraph down, image, I'm going to look for an image, I'll go to the home folder, and images, and when you upload any images, you want to upload them into the images folder as well. So I'm just going to find any one of these. Let's go into the banners licensed again. I'm going to choose that one. Now, again, a description. So, image of a diary representing opening hours. Now, if this was a banner about flu jabs or something, put something on there descriptive. I don't know, the description of that could be our flu jabs will be available from mid-November. Again, strip out these dimensions, which should be 875 wide. They don't have to, if they're not one of the banners, they don't have to specifically be 283 high. Untick that, submit it. Now you can see here it doesn't quite fill the gap. Normally the images will be sort of slightly larger, but whatever you want to do, you want to make them fit. So on these other images, you then apply this responsive image class. You can see now it's got this responsive image class applied to it, and when you publish that, actually I think it does fit that gap. I think it's just the styling in the content management system doesn't show that it does. Visit the web page, and let's scroll down to see where that image is. And again, what you'll see is that that image resizes to fit the browser window. And again, revisiting that back in the content management system, if we had left in pixel dimensions, this was 850, wasn't it? Visit the web page, we're going to get the same problem we had before, in that the image here will squash. So it stays the height, but you can see the image just squashes. which is not what you want. Now, images don't have to fill the page. You know, it could be a half-size image that fits half the screen, but I'd still, and if it is, then don't apply the responsive image class, because the responsive image class tells it to fit 100% of the screen space around it. So if I undo and get rid of this, if it was a smaller image, you still want to strip out the pixel dimensions, but if it was like less than about 500 pixels here, I don't know, we had a photo of, should we go home and look in the images, carers support logo or something, which is 470 pixels. You would again put in a description, image of carers support logo, image, or you can leave the dimensions in, but I wouldn't. 470 by 126. Again, don't need to do that. Submit it into there. And the reason we do that is because if we use responsive image on that, it's going to make it fill the screen and it might be too big. I mean, you could, but if you do responsive image, no, it will be a maximum of its size, won't it? So it would. No, you don't want it to be responsive image, I don't think, because that would make it fill the screen size on smaller devices. So I would not put that style in it. As I say, on the home page, because you don't have this right hand bar, if you were wanting a banner or a logo to fill the whole screen, it's 1128 pixels minimum width, but again, you don't actually put those pixel dimensions in. I hope it's not too confusing. Let me know if you have any issues with this, but I recommend using Pixlr, pixlr.com, to upload and crop any images to those dimensions. Don't put them in as massive dimensions and then just shrink them down and drag them to size. And don't try and do it in something like Microsoft Paint. You need either professional software on your computer, something along the lines of Photoshop or Adobe Fireworks, or you need to use an online image editor, of which there are plenty, but I find Pixlr, that's pixlr.com, the easiest. Let's just bring that up for you. I'm pretty sure it's Pixlr. It's the one I normally recommend. Yeah. You've got the quick and easy one or the advanced photo editor, but either one will allow you to do it, and you just crop to your correct dimensions. That's images. I hope that makes sense. There were a couple of other things I wanted to touch on very, very briefly that I hadn't done before, and one of those is, so this is obviously that test page we've been working on, and what you can do, as well as you've obviously got this undo when you're working on the page, is you can load previous revisions. So if you view revisions, you can see here what we've worked on. Now, if you've made a massive boo-boo and made a load of mistakes in the page and it's too many to edit and you want to just go back to how it was to make the edits again to start again, you can see here it said Sheila Lidbetter was editing the page, but it wasn't. It was just me impersonating you. So if I will go all the way back here and load this version of the page, you can see it takes it way back to where we were working before. And then what you would do with that is you can edit on that version and then publish it. So that's one easy thing to do if you make mistakes and you want to reload. I mean, it's an easy tool to get back to where you were previously. One other thing that you can do is to create new pages. Now, to create new pages, you're going to want to come out by hitting that exit button here. Now, most of the pages are standard layout. Some have tables in and stuff. Obviously, you can't really create a copy of the home page. Let's just say you wanted to create a copy of, let's just create a copy of that test page. From this drop down menu you can go to duplicate, so you can create a new page. This is what we did with that CKD page, or chronic kidney disease. You need to give it a label, so let's say this is about, I don't know, shingles vaccination. Right, it will give you the file name, so this will be like .shtml. I think it also actually applies that extension. Because it knows it's a .shtml page, so you don't need to do that. But you see what it does is it strips out the capitals and it puts a dash in because there shouldn't be spaces. So that's the page name, shingles-vaccination, and that will get .shtml appended to it. And the label is the shingles vaccination, and that's just the label that you'll see within this system. Duplicate. Right, that will probably be on page 4 now. Here we go. Oh, there was already a shingles vaccination page actually, called shingles, but anyway, you would go into this page, this new page that you created, change the title, change the content, change the banner if necessary, add the content on there. The other thing you would need to do is to edit the page properties. Right, so you wouldn't want this to say test page, because this is the preview that you get in Google, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, all those search engines. So you'd want this to say shingles vaccinations advice are available for the over 75s. Oh, I've left caps lock on, but it doesn't matter. But it's just you'd put that in, and that's kind of a search engine preview. Then you'd hit submit. Don't worry about the fact I've left caps locks on. Just not going to go back because we're running short on time in the video to correct that. And then you would publish. Once you change this, change the picture, added your content, you'd then, like any other page, publish that page. Now, what you then need to do, because the menu here is controlled by complex JavaScript, it's not editable within the content management system, but you can create a new page. This is what I think Charlotte did with the chronic kidney disease page, and then she just asked us to create a link to that. So create your page for a new service or an update or something that you want to be live, update the page properties, publish it, put your content in and publish it, and then ask us and say, look, we need that. We need a new drop down for the practice info or the policies or the health advice page to get to that page. I mean, to be honest, in the last 4 years, Steyning Health Centre have created 2 new pages. It's not something that happens massively regularly, but if it's something you need, just let us know and we can do that for you. So that's just by duplicating the page from that. I'm just going to exit this and show you again. I'm actually going to delete that page. But that was from, find the page that you want to create a duplicate of, and you just hit this duplicate. Okay, I think that pretty much covers anything. If you're confused about the images bit, please get in touch. I don't think you'll be uploading many images anyway. And if you make a mistake with it, we can always correct that for you. But if you need any further advice, Sheila, please just pick up the phone, give me a call.